Live from the Emerald City in Seattle, Washington, the UFO, Bigfoot, and paranormal hotspot of the Pacific Northwest. Coming directly to you listening in around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer, occupying the captain's chair tonight for SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including all of our listeners on the digital side at Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can always find our archive shows for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us all a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, and catching up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. And tonight, folks, is a special night for us. Due to a scheduling snafu that we had, we literally have Peter Davenport scheduled now for the first full hour of the show on Spaced Out Sunday. I am excited to be able to relax and sit back and talk with Peter for the first full hour tonight about sighting reports from around the globe. And then we're going to take it from there and kind of wing it for the rest of the show. Matter of fact, I'm even posting, by the way, for all the folks on that have access to Facebook. On Michael W. Hall on Facebook, you can access the show link for the Zoom cast that I'm also simulcasting on. And if you'd like to join us for open lines tonight on the link that we have up there on Facebook at Michael W. Hall, feel free to do so. Click on the link. Let me know you're in the waiting room and you'd like to come on maybe to talk with Peter and myself directly during the show. Why not? We'll have an open line segment here going on for folks out there in the chat room. We got Brad and David and Tom and Nikki, and we got lots of folks out there waiting to kind of watch the show tonight. So let me give Peter Davenport an actual introduction. We don't get a chance to do this during the normal short time slots that Peter gets to do his normal sighting reports. So let me do that, because a lot of folks don't know some of the details on Peter's background. Peter Davenport has been the director of the National UFO Reporting Center since 1994. Peter reports UFO sighting cases regularly on the Jeff Rent Show on Coast to Coast AM, and of course on Spaced Out Sunday with Michael W. Hall. Peter also presents lectures on specific UFO cases, most notably the Phoenix Lights sighting. In addition to being the director of the National UFO Reporting Center, Peter has served as the director for investigations for the Washington chapter of Mutual UFO Network. Peter has had an active interest in the UFO phenomenon from his early boyhood. He experienced his first UFO sighting over the St. Louis Municipal Airport in the summer of 1954. And he investigated his first UFO case during the summer of 1965 in Exeter, New Hampshire, which became known as the Incident at Exeter. Peter has witnessed several anomalous events, possibly UFO related, including a dramatic sighting over Baja, California in February of 1990, and several nighttime sightings over Washington State during 1992. Peter received his undergraduate education at Stanford University in California, where he earned his bachelor's degree in both Russian and biology, as well as a translator certificate in Russian translations. His graduate education was completed at the University of Washington in Seattle, where he earned a MS degree in genetics and biochemistry of fish from the College of Fisheries, as well as an MBA degree in finance and international business from the Graduate School of Business. Peter has worked as a college instructor, a commercial fisherman, a Russian translator in the Soviet Union, a fisheries observer aboard Soviet fishing vessels, a flight instructor, and a businessman. Peter was the founding president of a Seattle-based biotechnology company which currently employs over 300 scientists and technicians. In 1986, Peter was a candidate for the Washington State Legislature, and in 1992 as a candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives. Now, if that isn't a fascinating introduction, I don't know what is. And Peter, thank you for allowing me to embarrass you a bit to say all those nice words.
Yeah, well, thank you for that lovely introduction, Michael, and for taking a little time to introduce me a little more thoroughly than we've done in the past to our audience tonight. They probably know me a little bit better now, and I can assure you that just about none of what you described about my background really applies to my work in ufology. Save for my work with the Mutual UFO Network, Move On.
Yes, although I'll tell you what, that incident at Exeter story is something that always fascinated me, because I can just, the idea that back in those days, the incident in Exeter is, if people don't know, I've got to bring to their attention, is one of the most iconic UFO sightings ever reported. And literally the book with the same title, The Incident in Exeter, was one of the best books ever written, I believe, on a follow-up of a UFO report. But you were the first reporter on the scene at that time as a young person just out of high school. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it was really quite exciting to be a cub reporter for my hometown newspaper and be assigned by the editor to go up to Exeter and get a story for them. Actually, there had been an earlier story in the Manchester Union Leader, but I'm not sure the journalist had actually been on site. So I went up there just a few days after the incident had occurred and went out to the field where two officers were witness to this disc-shaped object at the same time.
Now,
it was very exciting.
Now, before we get into the details of the sighting, which is very fantastic, by the way, let me get the details of how it actually started that night for you. Had you been working all day long at that point at the newspaper, doing whatever they wanted you to do as a young kid, or did you just get called in after school or something?
Well, actually, it had started early in the summer of 1965 with a conversation between me and my editor, my boss. Conrad Quimby was the editor of the Derry, New Hampshire News. And he was an absolute skeptic, Michael. He just didn't believe that the planet was being visited by UFOs. And I had actually seen one 11 years earlier, as you mentioned in the nice introduction you gave.
Yes.
I think it was July or August, and I believe the year was 1954, because I remember the car that my mother was driving that took us out to the St. Louis airport. And so I had seen a UFO and was hooked by the phenomenon almost as quickly as I saw that strange object over the St. Louis airport. Well, I explained all of this to my editor, and he still was a recalcitrant skeptic. But when he saw the article in the Manchester Union Leader about Exeter and a UFO sighting, I guess that caused him to want to get his own story for his newspaper. So he came to me during the workday and said, "Peter, I want you to go up to Exeter and get a story for us. You're now, put on that broom, you're now a cub reporter.
Was that your first assignment, in other words?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, my.
Assignment for any coverage of UFOs. I hadn't written anything but headlines for the newspaper up to that point. So I called the Exeter Police Department, talked to Officer Tollefson, who was the dispatcher on the night of the incident. The sighting occurred on the early morning of September 3rd, again, 1965. And I talked to the two officers, interviewed them separately as to what they had seen, where they were located in the field. One of them actually took me out to the site where he was standing and showed me where this object had risen from the field from. And it was really very, very interesting. Officer Bertrand, for anybody who knows the book, Officer Bertrand was the first person on site in a triangular-shaped field, and he didn't know it when he arrived, but the object was hidden behind a hummock or a hill in that field, in the corner of the triangular-shaped field. And he and the hitchhiker had been chased by this object, walked down into the field just about the time that the second Exeter police cruiser and officer showed up, and they turned around to go back to the second officer's cruiser to talk with him when they realized that their bodies were casting shadows ahead of them, and those shadows were getting shorter, so whatever was behind them was rising. And Officer Bertrand, who is the gentleman in the field, he, by the way, was a U.S. Air Force veteran. He had served in the Korean conflict. So he was accustomed to uncomfortable situations, I guess I should call it. And as he wheeled around to face the object that was illuminating him from behind, he went to draw his sidearm when the second officer had arrived and was standing by his cruiser, cautioned him not to do that.
Yeah.
So it was a very dramatic night. They stood there for several minutes watching this disc-shaped object, and I'm going to start with a disc-shaped object in my presentation of recent cases. Sounds very similar to what he saw, but he did not draw his sidearm, and he tried to get away from the thing. It was frighteningly close to him, and he said that they knew it was something unusual because it could move from one point to another over the field faster than the human eye could follow it, could register that it had moved.
Yeah.
So
oh, my. And my understanding, this Norman Muscarello was the young hitchhiker that reported this thing initially. Is that correct?
That's correct. Well, there had been a report even earlier in the evening. Officer Bertrand had been on a patrol earlier that evening, and he saw a car that was parked in the center of a circular intersection. He thought that was unusual, so he approached the vehicle, and he found a woman in the back seat hunkering down on the floor, scared to death, and her dog was in the front seat, also on the floor, apparently frightened or behaving strangely, the officer thought. And the woman was almost hysterical, as I remember. So the officer somehow got her to a hospital that night. I don't know if he took her in his car, in his cruiser, or if he summoned an ambulance or what happened there. But she was very upset. She told him a story about having been chased by a disc-shaped object from two major cities in southeastern New Hampshire.
And then, of course, that's when this young hitchhiker, Norman Muscarello, sees the same thing or something similar to that. How old was Norman at that time? Do you remember?
He was 18. And I remember that specifically because he had just graduated from high school and he had enlisted in the Navy, but on I think a 90-day delayed enlistment. And he was hitchhiking back, I believe, from Massachusetts. His girlfriend lived in Massachusetts. And he was hitchhiking back to either Exeter or some town close to Exeter. I've forgotten where he lived. And as he was walking down this dark, unlighted road, secondary road, two-lane road in New Hampshire, he was approached by a disc-shaped object, and it scared the living daylights out of him. So he started running, and the object obviously kept up with him, or was able to keep up with him. And he became so frightened that he jumped off the roadway into a swampy area and hid under a sort of a dense bush. And the craft came right above him, stopped, rotated 90 degrees, tipped up on its edge, and he said then it threw its high beams on him. The brightest light he'd ever seen in his life. So.
Oh my! Now at that point, at one point, he had to get out of there and make it to the police station to report this. How did that happen?
Exactly. And when the object went away, he jumped out from underneath that bush, got on the tarmac on the roadway, and he ran 5 miles into Exeter.
Oh my!
And he got to Exeter and burst into the Exeter police station where Officer Tollefson was using a radio for dispatching his two cruisers. And he listened to Muscarello's story about having been chased by a saucer. And Officer Tollefson apparently had been told by the Officer Hunt, or Officer Bertrand rather, who had come upon the young woman in her car. He had shared with Officer Tollefson the details of what she had told him about having been chased by a disc-shaped object. So they put two and two together, and Officer Bertrand requested that this young hitchhiker, Muscarello, take him back out to where Mr. Muscarello had seen this object. And that's how they ended up in that triangular field looking for evidence.
And this kid is your age at that time, isn't that right?
Yeah, I think he was a year older than I was. I was 17, he was 18. So,
and I don't know how that police officer convinced him to go back out there, but he must have had some kind of gumption to be able to do that.
I don't remember the details, Michael, but the officer shared with me the fact that the young boy, Muscarello, was very upset by his experience. And I'm not sure he was anxious to go back out there, but he was encouraged to do so by Officer Bertrand, and they drove the 5 miles from Exeter to Kensington. Technically, it should be called the incident at Kensington because it occurred in the neighboring town to Exeter. But who pays attention to details, huh?
Yeah, that's funny how things get started. Same thing with the idea of the term flying saucer to begin with. That's for sure. Well, and then you got to realize that this was back in 1965, and we've got two police officers now corroborating what this young hitchhiker and this woman had previously told them. And literally these two officers pretty much get buzzed in close proximity with this saucer. Isn't that right?
Yeah, all three of them Officer Bertrand, Officer Hunt, and Norman Muscarello stood there on the edge of the field, just watching this object flit around the field. And they reported to me that there was animal reaction because there was a horse farm across the street, probably 100 yards or so from where they were standing. And the horses were going crazy. They were whinnying and neighing, and they kicked out the door of the barn they were in, and they kicked out a fence and escaped. So it was quite a night. Then the last sight they had of the object, it was going southeast, headed towards the shoreline of New Hampshire. And that's the last they saw of it. Interestingly, it is reported in the Manchester Union Leader paper that a man called in from the coastline of New Hampshire from a pay phone, and his call ended right in the middle of a sentence, and they were never able to find that man. I have no idea who he was. I'd give my eye teeth to talk to him and ask him what he saw, because he was telling, I believe, Officer Tollefson. I believe for some reason the guy called the Exeter Police Department, and he reported what he was looking at, and he was describing a disc-shaped object. And that's exactly the direction that the object had left, headed in the direction of.
Yeah. Now, this, by the way, if people don't realize, was 1965, I think you said.
Yep.
And in 1963, prior to this, not that far away, was the Barney and Betty Hill incident as well. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but isn't it interesting that it's not that far away?
Yeah, exactly. And similar shaped craft as well.
Yeah.
In fact, John G. Fuller, the man who wrote the incident at Exeter, also wrote the book about Betty and Barney Hill. It's on my shelf.
Yes. Oh, it's classic.
Books.
Classic. By the way, I can imagine you coming back after your interview of two officers that night and talking to your boss. How did that conversation go?
Well, I don't remember the conversation specifically, but he must have accepted what I said, because he gave me a front page on 2 issues for an original article and a sequel to the article. And it created quite a stir in our town.
I'll bet we could still, to this day, bring that article up on the internet from the Dairy News on that day, I'll bet.
Yeah. I have shown that, the front page of that newspaper, on many occasions during my public presentations. And I take a bit of pride in that article, because not very often a young 17-year-old high school graduate gets an opportunity to write a major article on a very controversial subject and have it featured on the front page of a fairly major newspaper. Derry, New Hampshire was considered to be the second largest city in southeastern New Hampshire, right after Manchester. So,
yeah. Well, and I would imagine, Peter, that your story was picked up by the wire services at that point and went around the world.
It may have. That part of the story I don't know, because the next day after the article was published, I went off to college in California, and it wasn't until I got back home for Thanksgiving that year that I saw the sequel to my article. Second installment. So.
Oh, that's interesting. And where did you go to school that semester?
I went to Stanford. That was my beginning year as a freshman.
Oh my, across the entire country you had to travel to get out to the West Coast.
Yep.
Oh, fascinating stuff. Oh, I love this story. I'm so glad we had a chance to get to the details of that. We're going to take our break right now and do our 6 minutes of commercial time, so you get to relax and kick back. This is where you normally are done, but if you're feeling all right, we'll just come back after the break.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this, and I look forward to the next half hour.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well, we'll do that. We're going to go on our quick break here for the first commercial for Spaced Out Sunday, folks, and we will be right back.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans, it's John Resnick, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily.
That's because I have to mute myself during the
SOR
commercials.
Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hang on.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. For more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, Use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencers Support Association, otherwise known as HESA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sighting Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out the Sightline report on the Spaced Out Radio website, and let's figure out what's going on together.
And we are back with Peter Davenport on Spaced Out Sunday, and this is a treat for all of us, being able to have Peter after the break for another segment of Spaced Out Sunday. Can you hear me all right, Peter?
Fine, Michael.
Great. Well, that was a fascinating first half hour with not having to get any sighting reports at all, but just to kind of be able to talk about a case in detail there. That was fascinating.
Yeah. There's a little codicil I'd like to add to it. I mentioned that I left for California, I think it was the 14th of September, 1965, and discovered that one of my dorm mates was none other than a certain Mitt Romney.
Oh, my word.
He and I shared the same dormitory. He was on the third floor, I was on the first. He was a remarkable guy.
Is that right? Tell us about what was your impression of Mitt Romney back then. Was he a freshman at the same time you were?
Yeah, we were both freshmen in Rinconada House at Stanford, at Wilbur Hall. Anybody who's been to Stanford knows Wilbur Hall. It's where all the freshmen are congregated during their freshman year. But Mitt and I got to know one another a little bit. We weren't close buddies. I guess the separation of floors was enough to keep us separate. And he was one of those people who's sort of bigger than life, seemed to be everywhere all at once, and he was involved in all sorts of interesting things. I don't know how he did it and maintain his studies as well, but he was a very interesting guy. I liked being around him. He was fun to talk to. And I believe it was the 8th of November, again, 1965, that his father spoke to our house. That was his father, George Romney, had just returned from his fact-finding trip to Vietnam, and he stated that he felt that the American people were being, to a degree, deceived by the U.S. government about Vietnam, and that's what cost him the nomination for the Republican, to become the Republican candidate to run for the presidency.
Oh, my word, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So even back then, he was bold enough to make some statements against the Vietnam War.
Yeah, I don't think Mitt did. He supported the war, but his father was cautious about it.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah, that's how I met Mitt Romney. I haven't seen him since 1966.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. It's amazing how many people kind of brush past each other during similar experiences on this planet, you know, and I've often thought it'd be kind of fun to write a book about that, you know, almost like souls passing in the night of divergent people that you might never have known knew each other, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The freshman year was very exciting. I met a lot of people whom I never would have met had I not gone there and gone to Stanford.
Well, and you were a world traveler yourself by the time you got to Stanford. Literally, you had been around the world in various locations because of your family travels as well.
Yeah. Actually, I spent a year in Ethiopia in 1962 and 63, living with an Air Force family. My parents consented to farm me out for a year to good friends who were in the Air Force and were serving in Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia. And those friends were kind enough to invite me to live with them and spent a year in Ethiopia, which was very exciting.
What an experience for a young high school person to get out of his neck of the woods and travel the world. Did that kind of give you the confidence maybe to start learning foreign languages like you did later on in life?
Well, it was a lot of fun, and I did learn a little Amharic, which is the cultural language of Ethiopia. But I think I had an interest in foreign languages even prior to that, because in the public schools in Ferguson, Missouri, where I grew up, on the north area of St. Louis County, our school had both French and Spanish. So I had studied both of those before I headed off to Ethiopia.
Oh my goodness. You know, and it's funny because I remember doing my high school Spanish, mandatory courses kind of thing, and thinking to myself, why am I doing this? I'm never going to be able to use it or even want to use it. And literally a few years later, I find myself in Central America doing an entire Up With People show in Spanish and going into the audience as the MC of the group and talking with people as if I knew the language. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh my word, my Spanish teacher would have never had any idea I could even do anything like that. So you just never know when it becomes in handy. And of course, the story that it really came in handy for you was when you were almost like, let's say, waylaid and almost killed on a Soviet trawler. You want to tell that story?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It was one of the most frightening experiences I've had to put up with, but this is June and July of 1986. Maybe 1976, I'd rather.
Yeah.
I was a grad student at the University of Washington College of Fisheries, and the National Marine Fisheries Service discovered that I spoke Russian. And that was significant to them because in the spring of 1976, Congress of the United States had passed what became known as the Magnuson Act. It was an act that required any foreign vessel wanting to fish in our waters to get a license to do so and register with the U.S. government. And they had to consent to have observers aboard their vessel who could keep track of what was being caught and what was being thrown back into the ocean. So the National Marine Fisheries Service in Seattle came to me and said, "Peter, do we have a job for you?" And they gave me a bucket with scales and knives and all sorts of paraphernalia to support me in that job. And I flew up to Kodiak, Alaska, and went aboard the ship on the 30th of June, 1976. It's ironic that I spent our bicentennial aboard a Soviet fishing vessel.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my.
But towards the end of my stay, I was aboard for, I believe, 18 days. The skipper, the Soviet skipper, tried to force me to sign documents. And I told him that I could not sign documents. I was not a decision-making employee of the U.S. government. But if he would allow me to send out a telegram to my bosses, I would explain the situation and see if they would allow me to consider signing these documents. Well, when I sent out that message, I switched 2 adjacent letters in every English word so that somebody, the recipient of that message, would realize that something was amiss.
Ah.
In point of fact, the U.S. Coast Guard in southeast Alaska, in Juneau, Alaska, figured out the problem. They realized I was under duress from the message. And fortunately, I got off the vessel the next day. I've never been so happy to see a U.S. Coast Guard vessel coming my direction.
Well, and the reason you were so happy to get off that vessel is that you were basically being threatened by the captain, who was drunk at the time, to be thrown overboard almost.
Yeah, the skipper was drunk just about the whole time I was aboard. And he told me that if I didn't sign his documents, they could shoot me and dump my body overboard. And nobody would ever find the body. They'd just report that the American observer had gotten tangled in a net as it was being deployed overboard, and he never came up.
Oh, my.
I was pretty alarmed by that situation, as you can well imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, this was in 1976. Oh, my. This is well before perestroika or any of that stuff.
Yeah. We were still in the throes of the hot war, and so it was quite an experience. It made CBS Evening Night News, I was told later on. It was reported that a U.S. fisheries observer had been absconded by a Soviet fishing vessel.
Oh my, it's like the SEAL Team 6 guys, showing up to rescue you out of the blue, almost.
Yeah, that's for sure. Anyway, that doesn't have anything to do with UFOs, but it's an interesting story, and it fleshes out my background a little bit for the benefit of the people listening tonight.
Oh, it does. It's one of those things, Peter, that we don't get a chance to really appreciate. The diversity of your background, your expertise, your graduate degrees and multiple degrees, your technology background too, and the biotech industry as well is very fascinating. And then, of course, you and I meet in 1995, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's what I recall too, at the MUFON Symposium in Seattle, put on by Marilyn and Larry Childs.
Yes, that was the first time that I saw Peter Davenport in action giving the keynote speech at the MUFON convention, and I was so impressed. I was flabbergasted. I was able to buttonhole a few moments of your time, and we've kind of been hanging out for decades ever since together. So thank you for all of your service to the community in ufology. Thank you for your friendship over the years.
Yeah, well, I feel the same way, and I really appreciate all the airtime you've given me on Spaced Out Radio.
Oh, this is our pleasure. Matter of fact, we might as well, at this point, get into a couple of reports so people will maybe hear about what you think they need to know about this week. Might as well.
Yeah, I have a very exciting report right in front of me. It comes from Hamilton, New York, from the 24th of October, Saturday. This is 8 days ago now. A young mother was having dinner with her husband and her 11-year-old child, make that 12-year-old child, and the child looked out the window and said, "What is that?" And they all looked out the window and they saw, allegedly, a large disc-shaped object. It was close enough that the ambient light was illuminating it so they could see it. It was had several large blue lights on it, and there were 10 or 15 individual smaller lights that were circulating around the flange of the disc, being illuminated sequentially. And I've chosen this case because it's so similar to in many respects, to the incident at Exeter, a disc with lights around the flange of the disc. But they could see that the object was rotating or the lights were rotating. They don't know which. And it was distinctly saucer-shaped. It was hovering in place as they watched it initially for about 20 seconds. It suddenly tilted to the left, she reports, for a few moments, and then leveled out again, and then tilted to their right. And it proceeded then to move away from them in the direction of Upselik and Lebanon, New York. The object stopped a second time, and it apparently entered some clouds because they could see it through the clouds, and then suddenly, she writes, all of the lights extinguished and it disappeared from their sight. The whole incident lasted, she estimates, for 1 to 2 minutes only.
Oh my goodness. You know, there is another famous police report of a UFO in Lebanon, New York as well, I believe. That just rings a bell to me as far as some hotspots that have previously been reported there. Can you imagine? This was just October 24th. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just 8 days ago.
Yeah. A large disc, saucer-shaped, with rotating or lights that seem to be rotating around the edge of the disc. Oh, that's got to be fascinating. And this is a wife and a husband and their child saw this. All of them, right?
Yep, all three of them. They stood there looking through their glass windows, looking at that object. And it's, in my judgment, a very convincing, cogent, credible report.
Yeah. And, of course, this is something that people could go to your website and check out in more detail if they're interested also.
Oh, possibly, but I haven't posted this report yet. I'm way behind in posting reports.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, right.
Be posted by the end of this week, let's say.
Okay.
And I have another report I'd like to share with our audience. It comes from Lafayette, Colorado. Lafayette, Colorado. This is from this past Monday, the 26th of October, again, 2020. Young gentleman writes that he was outside smoking, looking at the night sky at 1900 hours, 7 p.m. on this Monday evening. And he asserts in his report, a black triangle streaking across the night sky with 4 dim lights on the bottom of each side. What that looks like, I have no idea. I'm simply parroting what he wrote about his sighting. And the interesting thing is it was silent and it was going very, very fast. He doesn't indicate how long he saw the object, but I get the impression from what he writes here that it was for only a few seconds.
Oh.
I've shared stories of triangular or boomerang-shaped craft with the Spaced Out Radio audience in the past. It's one of the types of sightings. That type of craft is being reported more and more frequently, it appears to me.
Yeah, and did they indicate that it was triangular in shape, or they just saw triangular shaped or three lights or so? Is there any indication of how they determined it was triangular?
No, they don't. The one witness who submitted the report provides only a two-sentence description of what he saw. One of the very frustrating aspects of my job is getting a report like this, which appears to be credible and submitted from a sincere individual with a paucity, very little detail.
Oh, yeah. I mean, some of them are so matter-of-fact that they're startling, really.
Well, you'd think that if a person sees what he believes is a UFO, he would be straining to include all of the facts, but that's not the case. People like to oftentimes submit just very short, cryptic, taciturn reports. But the next one is the opposite of that. This one comes from this past Tuesday, the 27th of October, from Cottage Grove, Oregon. 2100 hours this past Tuesday, or 9 p.m. The gentleman was sitting in his hot tub at 9 p.m. and he saw a very large light. Well, very large is relative to different people, but it was much bigger than a meteor, much bigger than a satellite, much bigger than an airplane. And he was looking at it in the northern and western skies. As he continued to stargaze, he saw this light. And the interesting thing is, it appeared more like, it appeared to him to come into existence initially accompanied by an explosion in the night sky. And he watched it for 3 seconds as it grew to a large size. Then it disappeared, and a second one in a different area of the sky suddenly appeared in a similar fashion. He estimates that he saw both these lights explode in space over the course of 10 to 15 seconds. And I don't know what he saw. I can't certify that what he saw was an alien spacecraft. But if it was not what is known as a iridium satellite, then it's something very unusual. Very nicely written report, and he's an academician in Cottage Grove, Oregon. But he's insistent that it was very, very unusual in its appearance, and he's a seasoned skywatcher. He writes at the end of his report, and in all my years of seeing meteors, comets, shooting stars, and various satellites, I've never seen a light flash such as what I witnessed last night. So.
Yeah, it's what kind of tips me off on that report is the fact that he called it an explosion. Matter of fact, 2 explosions, rather than just potentially, like you said, a flash of an iridium satellite would be no sound or anything like that. So an explosion sounds to me like he was hearing something or saw it was something larger than just a flash.
Yeah. He said, and the interesting thing is, after the explosion, the object hovered for, he estimates, 3 or 4 seconds. And then it disappeared, and either it or another separate object appeared in the distant part of the sky, appeared in the same manner as the first one. So some of our listeners may not be familiar with iridium satellites, but they They are communication satellites that have very big, highly reflective antennas, square or rectangular antennas. And when they catch sunlight just right, they appear to flare up in the night sky. In fact, you can even see some of them during the day, they're so bright. And when somebody tells me that something exploded in the night sky, the first question I often ask is whether they're familiar with iridium satellites and the type of very intensely bright reflection they give.
Yes. Then, of course, on the UFOI team, we've learned through your auspices that iridium satellites will only reflect the sunlight to different parts of the planet at different times during the evening. And once it gets past the Earth's shadow at a certain time during the night, the iridium satellites are pretty much ruled out at that point.
They're not visible at all because, as you correctly point out, Michael, once they're in the Earth's shadow away from the sun, you can't see them from the ground level.
Yeah, so it's easy to kind of determine if there's a factor in that regard. You know what, Peter? This has just been a pleasure for me to not be under the gun, be able to allow you to just get to the details that you want to give us. And before we get to the top of the hour break, I sure would like to take some time for people to get your contact info, that hotline phone number, and your address again. For people who might be motivated to send you $5, $10, $25 periodically to kind of keep the National UFO Reporting Center going with all of your volunteer help that you have been doing all these decades. So let's give the old info here before we leave.
Well, thank you for doing that. I'm always grateful when you make time available for me to share the contact information. The hotline, and we've had the same number for 46 years. It is area code 206-722-3000. That number again is area code 206-722-3000. And it runs probably it's answered usually 18 hours a day, and exclusively by me. Our website for the written reports, follow-up written reports, is ufocenter.com, ufocenter.com, and our mailing address in Davenport, Washington is P.O. Box 700, Davenport, Washington, Davenport like my name, 99122.
99122, Peter Davenport at 700, P.O. Box 700, Davenport, Washington. I think that's easy to remember, and I'm glad that we have the opportunity to give that out every week, Peter. And again, I hope we didn't stress or strain you out by making you go for a full hour. I'm hoping that you're going to be able to take care of yourself for the rest of the night and relax. But thank you again for coming on for a full hour tonight.
You're welcome, and thanks for the invitation. Thanks for the good airtime, Michael. You're always a delight to work with.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, we're going to take our break at the top of the hour, folks, and we will be back with more of Spaced Out Sunday in just a moment. So hang on to your hats. Here we go.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, the Paranormal Warrior, Michael W. Hall. Thanks for joining me. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 in New Orleans. And on the digital side, we are very proud to be on Revolution Radio. Don't forget, you can always check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website, of course, is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including working out, rocking out to some Bumblefoot, like we always do on the bumpers there, and shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, and catching up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. Well, we are back. Hour number 2 here of Spaced Out Sunday. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Oh, Melinda, thank you for jumping on the Facebook feed, and all the folks out there in Facebook land that are kind of jumping on to our broadcast as well. We've got Brandon. Oh, my good buddy Brandon's out there. We've got Deborah and Mark, of course. I want to give a shout out to Mark Eddy, my booking agent and my producer for the show. Mark has done a heck of a job getting all of our guests periodically on the show. I don't know if you've noticed the quality of guests on our show has just skyrocketed in the last few months, 6 months at least, since Mark Eddy has joined us probably a year ago. And thank you again, Mark, for all the hard work that you do for Spaced Out Sunday, and for myself as well, because I don't have to worry about that. I know that you've got something handled, and I really appreciate all the efforts that you are putting into the show. We got, of course, lots of folks joining us, Debbie, and we got Melinda as well on there. So thank you guys for hanging on there with me tonight for a unique show, because we were able to have Peter Davenport on for the full first hour. And it's always fascinating to hear from Peter and talk about his background and some of the things that he has done over the decades as far as ufology goes, and then the background as well that he has. And of course, yes, Melinda, you're a very good friend of Peter's as well. Peter is one of those kind of guys that literally will be answering that phone at the UFO hotline at National UFO Reporting Center 24 hours a day, almost. Literally, he is the guy that does all that work. So again, the phone number is 206-722-3000, the famous UFO hotline at the National UFO Reporting Center, 206-722-3000. If you ever have a sighting report, you need to report it and get it in there, and you can go to New Fork on the internet as well to make that sighting report known online. Since we don't have a full-time guest for the rest of the show, I thought I'd do some interesting, strange weirdness tonight. If you're up for it, now that Halloween is officially over with last night, I thought what we would do is kind of have a story time by the fireside tonight. How about that? I'm going to read some stuff that I have written in the past that you might enjoy. If you don't, you can tune out now, and we will see you next Sunday for sure when we have our normally scheduled time together. But I thought what we should do is fill the time that we've got now with something that is kind of interesting and timely, because I just posted a short film of my experiences last summer at the storming of Area 51 event, Aliens Stock, on Facebook at Michael W. Hall, if you can check that out. But I thought it'd be interesting tonight if you would like to sit back and relax, enjoy the campfire that we got going here, the fireplace, and I thought I'd read you the story that I wrote recently called Storming Area 51. This actually is a short story I wrote, prompted by a good friend of mine, ufologist and researcher David Hayth. David and I have been communicating for years over social media, but at one point David actually thought to ask me the question of, what about the idea that we are now becoming cosmic neighbors potentially, and the idea that we're going to have to meld our system of laws with potentially the galactic version of the common law that might be out there? And he said, you're the paranormal lawyer. Maybe you could come up with some kind of a interesting story about the conflict of law issues that we're going to be dealing with, of course, treaties and otherwise, that might be relevant in the future of our planet. So I came up with this story. I hope you'll enjoy it. Maybe you'll indulge me a bit tonight to sit back, relax, get some munchies if you'd like. Feel free to take a break. I'm going to be very informal in reading this story, but I hope you like it. It's entitled Storming Area 51. An ultimate UFO road trip in search of the new cosmic dream, or in lieu of that, any cheap facsimile thereof. A jurisprudential conflicts of law essay on exogonzology by Michael W. Hall, Esquire, Juris Doctor / former Notary Public, licensed and unbonded. Exogonzology is the study of all things outside of oneself. Part 1. We were just outside of Las Vegas, Nevada, vectoring north, straddling the thin asphalt ribbon that runs through the parched desert in the golden hue of a slanting September sun, heading to Area 51 and Connie West's Little Alien, restaurant, bar, motel, oasis in Rachel, Nevada. Population, humans, yes. Aliens, ? I say we because previously, in the wavering heat of a rather compelling bout of highway hypnosis, I had mused myself into believing I had picked up a diminutive traveling companion / hitchhiker named Carl, a pot-smoking, foul-mouthed extraterrestrial who had telepathically intimated that he needed a lift to Area 51. And since, inexplicably, I had already pulled over to the side of the highway, I thought it best not to ask any unnecessary questions. Headquarters had magnanimously authorized my rental car, a massive black SUV fit for a MIB, which, with my meager monthly federal stipend, I had immediately provisioned with high desert grub steak, standard legal documents, and low-tech podcasting gear. Or was it low-tech documents and barely legal podcasting gear? Either way, the stated goal was to encounter, then survive the rumored storm, which ominously had been brewing at the government's super-secret military test site near Groom Lake, known as Area 51. Miraculously, during the previous month or so, 3 million plus youthful iGen Centennial Zoomers had signed up as if congealing out of the ether in a significant consciousness-raising response to the viral internet joke posted by a young Southern California gamer calling for the world to storm Area 51 with the dubious justification, "They can't stop us all." And since I was much too nubile in 1969 to attend Woodstock over 50 years ago, I logically figured it was my civic, nay, my cosmic duty to represent my fellow UFO I-Team colleagues, that highly experienced scientific technical group of UFO paranormal field investigators I founded in direct, at this, perhaps once again, once-in-a-lifetime gathering of unique planetary souls who were so boldly demanding an end to what my good friend and UFO lobbyist Stephen Bassett terms the truth embargo against UFO ET disclosure. My previous fear and loathing road trip reconnoiter through the same parched and lonely land just 2 weeks prior, in scorching 105-degree heat, had me now scanning the darkening skies for those huge bats all swooping and screeching and diving around the car that my gonzo literary hero Hunter S. Thompson so eloquently described during his mad, drug-addled dash from LA's Sunset Strip through Barstow to Las Vegas, during his twisted ether binge stupor so iconically characterized by Ralph Steadman at the helm of that cherry-red convertible as he attempted to beat the bastard deadline to register his press credentials at the fabulous Mint 400. In honor of the good doctor of journalism's late-night drug-gathering scavenger hunt, which of course he was compelled to push as far as he could, I too, as a respected, if not run-of-the-mill doctor of jurisprudence, retired Superior Court Judge Pro Tem, and certified mediator, only recently allowing my notary license to lapse, had similarly prosecuted a last-minute paper chase through the greater Seattle area, hitting such local outdoor emporiums as Cabela's, REI, Fylth, and Best Buy, with a quick side trip to Value Village, cramming my beat-up courtroom valise with various and sundry desert survival gear, GoPros, electronic charging cords, and enough practical tactical clothing to survive the searing desert heat by day and the full moon teeth-chattering chill at night. I'll admit the thought of amassing even a short list of the obligatory illicit drugs, parapharmaceuticals, and medicinal ether that traditionally filled the good doctor's Samoan attorney's conspicuously heavy black briefcase, and the comic prospect of having to explain to the TSA security goons at SeaTac Airport that it was all medically necessary for my type 2 diabetic condition, brought a fleeting glint of envy to my pineal gland, which I swiftly, though begrudgingly, dismissed. At the very least, the roguish thought of recreating the good doctor's classic desert run as a fitting tribute for good or ill to the poetic justice and sheer joy of merely reading aloud the contents list of Raoul Duke's trunks/makeshift mobile drug lab was too precious not to ruminate upon, if only for its sweet, lingering aroma. He had 2 bags of grass, 75 pellets of mescaline, 5 sheets of high-powered blotter acid, a salt shaker half full of cocaine, and a whole galaxy of multicolored uppers, downers, screamers, laughers, and also a quart of tequila, a quart of rum, a case of Budweiser, a pint of raw ether, and 24 amyls. Eventually, somewhere near an insignificant road sign that offhandedly mentioned how far we were from Ely, Nevada, through the subconscious fog of a Grant Cameron-style cosmic download, I humored myself with the borrowed thought that my imaginary alien sidekick, Carl, nicknamed in honor of the famed late-night Canadian paranormal talk radio host Dave Scott's own personal extraterrestrial stalker, had telepathically made it known to me that he was badly in need of a Reese's Pieces fix at the next Farpoint gas station, which coincidentally was just now looming ahead. I took this late-night opportunity to top off the gas tank, fill my coffin-sized camp cooler with fresh ice, cellophaned sub-sandwiches, Bud Light in those green and black commemorative alien head cans, 2 essential jugs of Arnold Palmer sweet tea, and an oversized plastic container chock full of chocolate-covered donut holes, just in case. And, of course, the Reese's Pieces for Carl, just in case my desert muse of a screen memory manifested into a starker reality further down the road. Chapter 2. Midnight Dash Through the Desert. 4-foot jackrabbits. Big black eyes and exo-jurisprudence. Traveling through Area 51 at midnight in the endless desert with high beams blazing is strangely reminiscent of the grand glory days of late-night talk radio. Nothing but the vastness of night illuminated beyond the windshield as my wild, ever-swinging imagination frames itself between the parallel white lines at the highway's fringeless edge. The staccatoed centerline hypnotically drawing me on into infinity ad hominem, ad nauseum. Art Bell's soothing nocturnal voice emanating from the pale glow of the Dash's AM dial, probing the recesses of a glazed midnight reverie, with late-night somnambulistic callers checking in from east and west of the Rockies, with sweet, frightful tales of black-eyed children persistently knocking at the back porch under a dim, flickering light, or vague memories of shape-shifting aliens materializing through the bedroom wall at 3:33 a.m., and primal fireside fables of shadow people, chupacabras, and an eerie bottomless pit known as Mel's Hole. Those late-night road trips were pure theater of the mind, enticing and forbidding, a passport to a stranger, more fantastic reality and cosmic awareness just around the corner, beyond ourselves and light years away from this boring, humdrum existence. Then there are the bats, and those menacing, diving stingrays, manifesting out of nowhere, symbols of the unknown that dart and swoop around us all, straight out of the night, unpredictable, uncontrollable, menacing and dangerous when you least expect it. That's what driving through Area 51 late at night is like, with a foul-mouthed extraterrestrial bastard riding shotgun, fingering his bag of Reese's Pieces with a long, bony middle finger, peppering the stifling desert air with sarcastic, telepathic commentary as Art Bell's iconic bumper music drones on into the night. "It's all exo-jurisprudence, man," says Carl, piping up inside my head. "You're a lawyer. You know everything begins with jurisdiction." I seemingly catch my diminutive traveling companion in mid-conscious thought. Then, apparently anticipating my psychic reaction, Carl continues his conflict of cosmic law diatribe as if we were fully engaged at some proficient level, which I don't fully understand. We continue thusly, flowing in some uncertain reality, if for no other apparent reason, at least on my part, than to stretch and explore this strangely familiar, underutilized telepathic ability that I never knew I had. You wouldn't argue an irrelevant point of municipal code in federal district court, says Carl, his big black eyes staring ahead into the night, reflecting in the interior glow of the SUV's ghostly windshield. Those clueless jags and their puny military tribunals are running roughshod over every intergalactic treaty ever negotiated, destroying eons of cosmic precedents and well-settled multidimensional law, not to mention long-held codified case law that has been begrudgingly acquiesced by your own local Parsec's Federation Council. I find myself agreeing in theory with Carl's offhanded cosmic legal analysis, though I can't really articulate why. Then out of the blue, I feel compelled to add, I assume your legal argument turns more on perspective than substance. Hearing my own telepathic statement brings me to the stark realization that it was transmitted well before it had fully formed in my head. I suppose one eventually gets used to such free flow of mental communication so as not to completely compromise one's own private agenda or lack thereof. Exactly, says Carl, punctuating the point seemingly appropriately with a crooked middle finger. Now you're talking the language of universality. Those military-industrial complex nerds have no idea who they're dealing with. The Draco High Council takes a dim view of bad legal precedents, especially when it's coupled with locally self-inflated cronyism. Not that longevity always carries the day, Carl adds, but do you realize how long the time-honored galactic principle of finders keepers, losers weepers has been around? No, I admit, bracing myself for some further wild cosmic revelation. I don't either, says Carl. No one does. That's the point. It's been a part of the accepted law of the universe long enough to be detected in the Akashic record as long as anyone can determine. How do you think life got started on this strategic rock tucked between Venus and Mars in the first place? Your planet's had a long succession of galactic explorers who've discovered, plundered, and then moved on well before the Anunnaki coveted its gold and planted their first pyramid. Hell, most multidimensional races look down on you poor reincarnating soul buckets stuck in your limited perspective and provincial thinking as being incapable of rational thought to begin with. Take this simple concept of cultural perspective and how it can be completely color one's thought process, continues Carl. Like the basic sidereal day, your local time scale based on the Earth's axial rate of rotation measured relative to the locally fixed stars. It's, of course, specific to the Earth's position within this particular star system. Now assume another potentially older civilization with a completely different sidereal origin who has transcended, or at least determined irrelevant their initial perspective, has earned their current universal view through eons of trial and error, successes and failures. Such a vested society might understandably find it difficult, if not incomprehensible, to give up their hard-earned situational status. And assuming at least a few of those developing societies have become aware of each other, it's safe to assume that some of them have already dealt with the prospects of interacting with and or potentially avoiding the less or more developed hostile peoples and or entity groups. The sheer mathematical probabilities argue against complete non-interaction and full isolation of every intergalactic species ever created or developed. Indeed, your own terrestrial history points to the commingling of different hominid species on every continent since the dawn of time. DNA, or its basic cosmic equivalent, as a way of getting around, if you know what I mean. The only similar conflict of law issues that you've recently experienced on this planet have been during the post-World War II Nuremberg tribunals, where various novel categories of human wrongdoing were initially discussed in any terrestrial forum. Concepts such as sovereign immunity, violations of international law, crimes against humanity, and genocide, and the idea that superior orders do not constitute a defense to manifested criminal violations had to be dealt with. And what if the law itself is profoundly criminal, i.e. coming from a completely criminal state? Or if the actual crime has not been determined to be illegal until after the fact? What about the issue of no punishment without law? Does the retroactive concept of ex post facto automatically make a law unconstitutional? As you can see, some of the traditional legal devices employed by normal prosecutorial standards are off the table in these heady, expanded areas of exo-jurisprudence. And how do you deal with the concept of a legal fiction, he adds? Is there an objective standard to cosmic jurisprudence? Or is everything subjective under the sun? Or indeed, under which sun? Or which sidereal day? Can anything be considered intolerably corrupt and therefore illegal a priori, independent of observation? Does this carry the day, or should it? Nothing can be both law and not law at the same time, or can it? As in the potential non-locality of effect, i.e., spooky action at a distance, or exo-jurisdictional entanglement. And how does the issue of sovereignty fit into the mix? I say, really starting to enjoy the unfettered psychic repartee. Are there appropriate times when one race or species does not have to ask permission from anyone? For example, does a people group have the right to treat its own subjects as its own business? Maybe, maybe not. Even under a claim of sovereign domestic law? Then there's the distinction between civil law and criminal law, Carl counters, and whether there's a universal right to a trial by jury of one's own peers, or a judge, or a matrix of artificial intelligence, AI, or whatever. And how do we even define karmic law? Trying to keep up with my cosmic mentor's enthusiastic lecture, I boldly add my own pet peeves into the mix. And don't forget the cosmic rule against perpetuities, I state, echoing my feeble proclamation into Carl's cavernous brain. Just as most terrestrial legal professionals don't adequately understand how the common law rule against perpetuities works, so too many exo-jurisprudential ambassadors are likely to confuse certain terrestrial terms and conditions as they apply to cosmic universality. Wait, did I just think that? I find myself slightly impressed trying to match Carl's amazing mental gymnastics. For example, I continue, just as the terms of a terrestrial trust is limited to 21 years plus the normal period of human gestation beyond a life in being at the time the trust was created, a larger cosmic rule against perpetuities might prohibit any given civilization from existing beyond a finite point where they realize situational society awareness without spreading its commensurate cosmic benefits. Where the heck did that thought come from? I continue thinking myself on some cosmic role. What if perpetuity is only afforded to those species who don't hoard the spark of life, but liberally spread it around? Indeed, the old adage may be a universal one. What I had, I gave. What I kept was lost forever. I could be mistaken, but I thought I detected a slight note of surprise emanating from Carl's psyche, which encourages me to add, and finally, how does the golden rule fit into all of this? Does the concept of do unto others and would have them do unto you exist at all outside the necessarily limited perspective? When you think about it, I think to myself, and consequently to Carl at the same time, it would be difficult to articulate exactly how any legal system could remain sustainable in the long run. Now you're talking, adds Carl. Hell, your species haven't even a clue when it comes to the subtle nuances of fate and karma, let alone preordination and chance. Unless you factor such concepts into a holistic approach to justice, you'll always run into conflicts between jurisdiction, perspective, and jurisprudence. Suddenly, I find myself pulling over to the side of the road at some innocuous point short of my destination of Rachel, Nevada, which I take to be somewhere in the vicinity of the back gate of Area 51. I watch as Carl opens the door and pauses before jumping out. Thanks for the lift, he says, blinking his big black extraterrestrial eyes and the stimulating conversation. He gestures in appreciation with his half-empty bag of Reese's Pieces. I owe you one. My pleasure, I say, a bit relieved to finally be bidding a fond farewell to my new cosmic friend in our exhausting telepathic conversation. Just then a strange thought occurs to me as Carl slips off the seat and onto the desert floor. Then again, I say, what if everything we've discussed is completely wrong? Or naive? Or worse, irrelevant? Bingo, says Carl, slamming the door shut. Storming Area 51. Okay, we'll be right back after this break here. We're going to have to take a well-deserved break here. And we're a little late, but we will be right back after this.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is watching.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you'd know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
Okay, we are back on Spaced Out Sunday, and thank you for indulging me there for that segment of the show. I hope you enjoyed that little short story called Storming Area 51. I don't get a chance, obviously, to do that very often. Sometimes you have to kind of think on your feet, and I hope you enjoy that. Hopefully it's now on Facebook, so you can go back and enjoy it at your leisure if you want to listen to that again at any time. Feel free to share it. Thank you. But, I think what we'll do here, since we don't have another guest on for the rest of the show, we've got only about 10 minutes till the top of the hour here. And I hope you all turn your clocks back. I want to remind everyone that last night was the night to actually fall back with your clocks 1 hour to normal daylight savings time. And so now it is actually only 10 minutes till 11 p.m. on the West Coast here, Pacific Standard Time, or Daylight Time. So I think what we'll do is kind of wrap it up at the top of the hour here for the show this Sunday. Call it quits an hour early, but we'll take the last few moments here just to kind of talk about a few things that come to mind. Now that we're heading into the actual voting and selecting of a brand new president of the United States, potentially, or re-electing a president of the United States, and the aftermath of what that is going to mean. I think that is going to be quite a test of, in reality, our collective response as humans on the planet. Because there are agendas out there that literally are trying to drag us in certain directions without any justification at all. Let's put it that way. And I think we all realize that. So I think it's going to be very informative after this election happens, one way or another, on how the public is going to be responding to potential foment, potential agendas being thrown at them from strange forces out there that we've all felt are kind of irrational and grabbing for power at this point. So I think things are going to go smoother. I'm hoping things will go much smoother than they are predicting. And of course, that we're going to all pull together and get over this whole idea of a pandemic and get back to some semblance of reality and how to deal with, these kinds of things that we've all been dealing with for eons and generations and survived and done pretty well with over the years. So that's one thing we need to look forward to in the next few days is we all don't forget to vote if you haven't already, and check in on your neighbors. How about that? We're going to have to depend on each other with some of these bold agendas trying to tear us apart, I believe. So that's something to think about. And as you've probably heard from Peter Davenport and the mainstream media all over the place, the UFO disclosure alien agenda seems to be on the forefront after the COVID thing and after the election. I'm wondering what's going to happen in that regard after this whole thing blows over, and whether they're going to start using the potential evil alien agenda to foment people as well and get them in fear of things and make irrational decisions on behalf of maybe the industrial military complex. So that's going to be fascinating to figure out how that is going on. And of course, Kevin is online right now saying, Michael, do we think this election has any larger international concern than past elections? More international concern than past elections? I think it does. I think so, Kevin. The idea being that the world is a lot smaller place at this point than it ever has been. And it seems to me that international news is on our mainstream media every night. No matter what you're watching, Fox News, MSNBC, the internet, whatever you're doing, it seems like, the Chinese thing, the Soviet thing, and North Korea, all of those issues seem to be almost brought home every night on the news. So it's fascinating to me how things are changing so quickly in our sphere. The idea that in a small town that I live in, like Edmonds, Washington, here, just north of Seattle, 40,000 or so residents in this small little seaside community. My gosh, we're well aware of what's going on halfway around the world on a minute-by-minute basis because of the internet now. And of course, that's being reflected in not just paranormal news, but all sorts of mainstream news events that we hear about on a moment-by-moment basis. So we're all going to have to be discerning. We're going to have to be kind of raise our consciousness a little bit over the next few days and weeks and months, and realize that we're going to have to make some personal decisions, I think, that will probably try our patience and resources, which are dwindling all around us. And the entire world economic reset seems to be coming down the road like a freight train right now. No one seems to be able to deal with it. And we are going to, as a world community, face the brunt of that, I believe. So that's where we're going to have to get together with our friends and family and acquaintances and our workforce friends, people that we depend on a daily basis. Basically, all the first responders, all the military personnel and hospital workers, and everybody that does what they do every day is going to be placed under a lot more pressure than they have ever felt, I believe. And we're going to have to figure out as a community, a worldwide community, how to deal with that. We are well beyond the point where we could actually try to isolate ourselves in a situation that we think affects only certain portions of the world. I think we're all realizing that it all affects us, everyone, no matter where it comes from and what kind of issues that other people are dealing with. We're all going to affect that change together if we are going to survive. So anyway, it's been quite an amazing show, actually, for our Spaced Out Sunday. I appreciate the first full hour with Peter Davenport. If you didn't get a chance to see that, please check it out on our archives, because we get to kind of get into some of the details of Peter's background and how diverse his education and experience has been over the decades in providing service to all of us on the planet, literally getting the word out about the ET presence and the UFO sighting reports around the planet. if you have a time and inclination and you have a few extra dollars you might want to send his way, don't forget his P.O. Box is on his website there, P.O. Box 700, Davenport, Washington, 98122. I believe is 98122 in Davenport, Washington is his mailing address. Send him a few dollars. It would help him. He is a one-man, one-horse volunteer out there doing what he needs to do for all of us. So I'm going to bring this thing down for a landing tonight, and we'll let you off a little hour early. So thank you for joining me, everyone. Thank you, Melinda, for kind of being my vicarious co-host out there, and Kevin and Brandon, and oh my goodness, we've got lots of folks on there. Mark and Deborah, of course, and Dave, and everybody that joined in tonight. Thank you for being with us. We really appreciate your presence here on Spaced Out Sunday. I'm going to get back to the show bumper music and bring this thing down for landing, and we will see folks next Sunday on Spaced Out Sunday.
There once was a man who had some land in eastern Washington. And on his land, this man, he had a deep dark hole upon. People came from miles around to throw their trash down in to see how deep the hole was and listen for its end. Then one day, that fateful day, they forced Mel off his land. They paid him off and sent him off down under with a plan. They hid Mel's hole and covered it up so ne'er it could be found, so no one would ever know what's deep down in Mel's ground. Yippee-yi-yay, yippee-yi-oh. There's no bottom to
Well, I want to remind everyone that Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal is the official music of Spaced Out Sunday, rocking us in and out of every single show. And you can find out more information and his music at bumblefoot.com. A special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, and in the chat rooms, wherever you are around the world. Remember, this show is currently copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you for sharing your evening with us tonight, because together, my friends, we own the night. Good night, everyone. Talk to you next Sunday.